Now available in paperback and coming to Kindle Unlimited, John Haynes, Dark Succubus. The man who rules the world is tempted by a sultry succubus in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, Dark Succubus in paperback or pre-order on Kindle Unlimited today. In a previous video, I talked about a 15-year-old girl who was ambushed and attacked by a group of teenage boys. And in the previous video, I said it was only 5 teenage boys based on a report that said that 5 of the teenage boys who participated in the mob that assaulted this girl by beating her and stomping on her until she was unconscious and then stealing her Air Jordan shoes had turned themselves in. However, the original mob was over 20 teenage boys. And this is quite troubling because it shows me that a generation of young black boys are not being taught male life skills or male survival skills, and the essential male life skill and survival skill they're not being taught is to put themselves first. Now, putting yourself first is extremely important because when a man puts himself first, he understands that he is the only one who is going to look out for himself, and he is the only one who's going to ensure that his needs are going to be taken care of. And in today's gynocentric society where boys are raised in single mother households, sadly, because there are no fathers in the home, boys are not learning to put themselves first, and because they're not learning to put themselves first, they are putting themselves last. And when boys put themselves last, what happens is they become pawns in the game of life, and they wind up losing everything because they wind up becoming a pawn on some woman's chess table. And the lesson I want boys to learn from this video is do not be a pawn on a woman's chess table, because when you become a pawn on a woman's chess table, you are guaranteed to lose. Because in the game of chess, a pawn is an insignificant player on the board, and because the pawn is an insignificant player on the board, oftentimes those who run the chessboard will sacrifice pawns in order to gain an advantage. And in this case of this 15-year-old girl being brutally beaten by a mob of 20 black boys, what happened was we had an entire group of 20 boys who wound up becoming pawns of one teenage girl, and that teenage girl using her advantage to manipulate these teenage boys into going out here to attack that young girl. And that's primarily because these boys came from a single mother household, and because they came from a single mother household, they learned to submit to female authority figures. And because they learned how to submit to female authority figures, they thought that everything that this teenage girl said was true. And because they thought what she said was true, because they got into their emotions, they got into their feelings, and they went out here to go out and try to attack this other girl based on her word, not critically thinking about the situation or thinking about the consequences of their actions. Because any boy who was raised with a father who teaches his boy male life skills and male survival skills, he's going to learn to put himself first. And when he learns to put himself first, he's going to understand, as part of his male life skills and survival skills, that he has too much to lose to go out here based on the word of a woman and based on solely on what she says. Because a critical thinking man, he is going to think about the intangibles of his health, the intangibles of his safety, and the intangibles of his freedom, and he's going to think about, is it worth losing those intangibles over the simple word of a woman? And a critical thinking man is going to say no to that because he understands he has too much to lose. Unfortunately, in the case of these teenage boys, they weren't thinking critically, and because they weren't thinking critically, they got caught up in their emotions regarding what this girl said and not asking, why do you want us to go out here and fight this girl? And thinking critically and saying, hey, if you got beat up in a fight with a girl and you lost, then you lost. Because that's what a critical thinking man or boy is going to say is, look, that fight has absolutely nothing to do with me. That is between you and her. And we're going to stay out of this because this is not our business. Unfortunately, when you have beta males who come from single mother households, again, they have a hive mind just like a female, and their whole thing is about protecting the queen. So these guys, they're so caught up in their emotions about a female, they want to protect her at all costs, and they're willing to risk their own safety and freedom. But that's what a pawn does in a situation. A pawn doesn't understand that it is being used to gain an advantage. And when a pawn is used to gain an advantage, once it is finished with being used, then the person who controls the pawn winds up discarding it. And this is what these black boys sadly are learning as they are being arrested and put through the criminal justice system, is that they were pawns of a female, and this female has no concern for their safety and their freedom at this point. Because now that they are in the criminal justice system, this same female is out here, and this same female is out here wreaking havoc by manipulating several other young males out here to participate in doing her dirty work. Now, I used to see this go on all the time back when I was a teenager in 1989 and 1990, and it led to almost 2,000 homicides here in the state of New York. And a lot of those guys wound up losing their lives as a result of getting caught up in their feelings based on what some female said. And the female sent him out like a beta male enforcer to go do her dirty work. And then once he got arrested for committing either a murder or a first-degree battery or assault, this guy was sitting in prison for those felonies. Meanwhile, that same girl was out here with two other guys while he was sitting in Rikers Island getting his booty blown out by Bubba and Tiny, and then getting his hair braided while he was in there being sodomized by these individuals in Rikers. She was out here with another dude having her fun and having her good time. And it's just like that Cool G rap song, Edge of Sanity, where the guy went out here and did something stupid because he on the emotions of a woman, and it led to him winding up on the edge of sanity because he wound up inside of the state penitentiary system as a result of letting a woman push his buttons and get him all emotional to act on his feelings. And that's one of the things that these women want to do with pawns, is get them to act on their feelings, act on their impulses. And then when you act on your feelings and your impulses, you're not thinking about the consequences of your actions. All you're thinking about is satisfying her feelings, but not thinking about your own future. And that's something a man has to think about, because you don't want to be a pawn for a woman, because pawns, they wind up not thinking about their own safety and their freedom, and that costs them their future, like these 5 teenage boys, now going on 7, who have practically destroyed their lives, all because they wanted to sate the emotions of a teenage girl who is going to go on with her life and is practically going to be laughing at these guys as she goes on with her life with another man. And while she's sitting there enjoying her life, these guys are going to have to deal with the struggles of having a record and trying to rebuild their lives once they get out of the juvenile justice system or the criminal justice system. And when they're sitting there trying to rebuild their lives, she has gone on with her life, and that's something guys need to really think about before they act on their feelings. Because when you act on your feelings, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, and that reaction can cost you your health, your safety, and your freedom. And those are things you don't want to put at risk over a female, because that female, again, is protected in our gynocentric society. And because she is protected in our gynocentric society, you don't want to risk everything you have tried to work for in order to get her attention, her approval, or to try to impress her, because she is not impressed by you when she sends you out here to do her dirty work. When a woman sends you out here to do her dirty work, basically what she is saying to you is that you are disposable, you have no value, and you don't matter to her at all. And that's why she will send you out here to put yourself at risk, because she has no regard for you whatsoever. And because she has no regard for you whatsoever, she will send you out here on a kamikaze mission to destroy your life while she's trying to destroy her enemy. And she is, again, using you like the pawn that she believes you are. You, as a man, have to understand your value as a man to the living God. And as a man in God's natural order, you have an important value, because as his head of household, as his steward, he made you first. He made you to put yourself first. And you have to understand that as his steward, you have a value because he loves you. And you have to start loving yourself to put yourself first and understand that anything that this woman wants is last, especially if she wants to put your health, your safety, and your freedom at risk. If she wants to send you out here to go out here and fight somebody for her, you have to have enough value in yourself to say, my life is too valuable to put at risk for her, because she's not putting herself on the line for me. And she's not putting herself on the line for herself, because if she really cared about dealing with this issue with somebody else, she's going to go try to settle that business by herself, and she's going to leave me out of the picture. That's what a woman who values and respects a man does. If she's having an issue with another woman, she has that issue with another woman. If she's having an issue with somebody else, she lets her deal with that herself. She doesn't bring others in to be pawns, because she values men like kings, and when she sees a man like a king, she doesn't send a king to do a pawn's dirty work. So you have to understand where you stand on the chess table. Either you are a pawn or you are a player at the game. And if you are a seasoned player at the game, you are not going to let some woman use you as a pawn. And pawns, again, are the lowest value on the table as related to chess, and they are easily sacrificed in order to gain advantages in the game. So you don't want to be someone who has your life sacrificed just so some woman can gain an advantage over a rival or an enemy, or even worse, use you to get out of a toxic relationship so that she can monkey branch over to the next man, like many women use pawns for. And something I talked about in my book, Misadventures of Captain Save-'em. You don't want to wind up being one of these guys, because, again, these guys, once they are used and discarded off of the chess table, what happens is they wind up in the criminal justice system. And once they wind up in the criminal justice system, they have wound up losing everything that really worked for, and they wind up losing everything that mattered to them. Again, meanwhile, she's going on with her life, and you're the one losing your life. And your life is too valuable and too precious to lose getting involved with females out here who want to use you as a pawn. No, if she wants to use a pawn, what you do is walk off of her table and stop playing her game and start playing your own, because she's not worth you losing everything you worked for and everything that is a part of your life. Because if she valued your life, she would not put you in a situation where you're out here doing her dirty work. No, she would be out here taking care of her own business. And you, as a man, have to learn how to take care of your own business. And part of that business is putting yourself first, looking out for yourself first and looking out for your intangibles of manhood, such as your dignity, your self-respect, your self-worth, and most importantly, your health, your safety, and your freedom. Because these are things you don't want to lose all over the attention of a female, and these are things you don't want to lose in general, because these things have tremendous value. Because if you lose your health, your safety, and your freedom, you cannot go out here and achieve the goals you want to achieve in life, and you can't be the best person you can be, because you are the only person who are going to be able to take care of yourself, and you're the only one who's going to help you meet your goals. So you, black man out here, you have to stop being a pawn for a female. Instead, you have to learn how to play your own game, because if you learn how to play your own game on your terms, then you are going to win, because you are not going to be a token on somebody else's table. You are going to be in charge of the table, and you are going to be in charge of the moves that you make. So you want to be the man in charge at the table, playing the game, and not the one who is played as a pawn for a female. If you want to learn how to avoid being a pawn on a woman's table, you can pick up my book, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. And if you want to learn how to identify predatory females, like the one I discussed in this video, you can pick up The Misadventures of Captain Save-'em on Amazon.com in Kindle format. And you can read that if you have Kindle Unlimited for free. And if you want to learn why so many boys are winding up in dangerous situations like this to become pawns of predatory women, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle formats, Smashwords, and the iBookstore. So that's all I have to say for this video. You comment, rate, and subscribe.